Welcome back to the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. I am your host, Cammie Red, and we are in for another wonderful wellness episode today. We are diving into one of the most crucial dimensions of wellness, financial wellness. And joining us is Weylan Walker, the founder of Enhanced Wealth and a VIP coach for the 10 Dimensions of Wellness Virtual Summit. Now, Weylan is on a mission to tackle the financial literacy crisis in the US and help people take control of their financial future. In this episode, Weylan will share how his personal experiences, including loss, ignited his passion for educating others about managing their money, leveraging the tax code, and using wealth building strategies typically reserved for the wealthy. Now, whether you're looking to improve your financial situation or just simply get started with the basics, Weylan has practical advice and the motivation you need to get on the path to financial wellness. Get ready to take notes and stay and start your journey to financial freedom. Let's welcome Weylan to the show. Hello.
How are you doing? How is everyone? My name is Weylan Walker. She kind of gave the entire introduction there for me, so I'm honored to be here, and I can't wait to see what comes of this. Honestly,
Awesome. Well, let's just jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit more about Enhanced Wealth and what inspired you to start your journey in financial wellness?
so basically, Enhanced Wealth is we are an agency, and we're like you kind of mentioned. Our goal is to kind of change the trajectory of how things are going right now in the United States. There is a severe financial crisis in the United States, as we mentioned earlier. Most people are brought up to believe that they should really just keep their money in banks, leave their money in low interest earning accounts. They're not really outpacing inflation, and therefore our dollar is losing value on a day-to-day basis. The main thing that I like to point out to kind of give people a better idea of what this is really about, how much has your dollar devalued in the past 4 years? Do you feel like you've been able to spend the same amount at the grocery store as you did about 4 years ago? Now think about how that's gonna look 5 or 10 years from now. If you guys don't start making a change as to like where you're putting your money and how it's continuing to accumulate, sooner or later you're not going to be able to afford things that you feel like anybody should be buying, like basic groceries and food and your light bill and your mortgage. Like all of that's going to end up being too expensive. And at some point, you're going to have to start working 2 or 3 jobs if you don't start putting your money to work.
You're absolutely correct about that. Now, financial literacy is often overlooked in education. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about financial wellness?
I think the biggest misconception is that people generally believe that you should, one, work harder. And I believe it's more about working smarter, right? A lot of people will say, well, I need more money, so work more hours, right? And working more hours, yeah, that's like a very basic way of thinking. That's not really thinking outside of the box. What you should be thinking about is how can I make my money worth more? How can I continue to grow what I already have versus trying to get more, right? And that's how I think most people. That's kind of the main difference between the rich and the poor, or the wealthy and the people who are middle class. One of them have a mindset of where money is used as a tool. Money is used to grow their financial wellness, versus the other party, which is the more of the middle class, or the poorer individuals. They see money as something that they need to save, right? They see it as something that needs to be cherished. Meanwhile, the money is not what needs to be cherished. The assets is what needs to be cherished. You should be trying to make sure you have as little money in the bank as possible.
Love that. Now, what simple steps can someone take today to start improving their financial literacy, especially if they feel overwhelmed by all of these things that are out there telling them where to begin?
I would start with just educating yourself with some basic books, right? Some of my favorite financial literacy books are The Laser Fund and Money, Wealth, Life Insurance. Those two are probably like where I would start. just so that I have a decent foundational understanding of like where the wealthy are placing most of their money, and then how that can lead into investing in real estate, how that can lead into opening a business and things of that nature. So definitely money, wealth, life insurance, and the laser fund. Some other good ones as just like honorable mentions. You could do what's that one book called? The Power of I think it's the power of the inside mind or the power. Yeah, I think I'm gonna check on that one. But that
Okay, I was gonna say you can
well,
always tell us at a later date.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But that book is huge. It definitely changed my life, even on top of in conjunction to money, wealth, life insurance, and the laser fund.
Okay, now I wrote down both of those, the laser fund and money wealth life insurance.
Mhm.
When did you emphasize studying what the rich do with their money? Can you share a few key habits or strategies that are accessible to everyone if they're looking to build their wealth, not just the wealthy?
Okay, so I would say the first strategy that is a no-brainer, right? It's one that doesn't even take 5 minutes of your time is open up a high yield savings account. That's number one. A high yield savings account, it's not gonna like make you rich or anything, but at least it's gonna help you outpace inflation at the bare minimum, right? Because if you put your money in a high yield savings account, you're going to be earning at least 4 to 5% interest annually, and those accounts are basically matching inflation. Inflation right now is at like 3.9 to 4%. So at least you'll be outpacing by 1%. And some of the accounts I would recommend, you could write some of these down as well, is Capital One, Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Another one would probably be I would go with M1 Finance. They have a good high yield savings cash account. That's a really good one as well. And even Cash App. Cash App has a high yield savings account, but only if you set up as a direct deposit. That's number one. Number two, which is very very simple. There's products that you can get into as quick as 15 minutes. Is cash value life insurance. That's my personal favorite. Pretty much anyone can qualify as long as they don't have any major health conditions. And basically, once you get into that plan, you're going to be earning about 10% interest annually. Now that's huge because typically inflation, like I said earlier, is about 3.9%, and you'll be outpacing it by a large margin. That's going to help you get into real estate. That's going to help you retire. That's going to help you avoid tax implications that you would if you were investing outside of cash value life insurance. That's also going to help you get into other investments outside of just like the policy itself. Next thing would be real estate. 90% of millionaires are created through real estate. Everybody knows that, or at least a lot of people do, but people choose not to invest in it, right? And in my personal opinion, alongside cash value life insurance, a real estate portfolio is going to do a lot better. It's going to do a lot better long term than a 401k, any IRA, any other money market account that you open. Just having a real estate portfolio of a few houses in a good area is going to do a lot better long term than leaving it inside of a cash account or some type of real estate brokerage account like Fidelity. Okay. Um, One thing I want to touch on is 401ks and most of these, retirement accounts, they're created to benefit the business owner, right? They're a huge tax deduction. These accounts weren't necessarily created so that we could retire out of them as employees. That of course that's a byproduct of them throwing away money and matching our contribution and all of that. But as far as like what the real goal was when it creating those 401ks, it was designed for two things. One, to keep the economy going by continuing to fund the market with all these 401ks that are opening with every job. And then two, keeping the business owners happy by keeping it as a tax deduction. That way they're all incentivized to open these 401ks for the employees.
Okay. Now, what role do you think mindset plays in achieving financial success? And how would you or how do you coach your clients to shift from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance?
So one of the main things is I would probably shift from the idea that you need to save your money. Kind of like I touched on earlier. An abundance mindset is based on realizing that all of the money that you have and all of it that you are spending, um, it's not about saving, it's about where you're spending it, right? So instead of, buying, an extra coffee from Starbucks, start making your own from home. Instead of, buying food, constantly going out and spending money on takeout, you could just purchase groceries and start cooking a little bit more from home. Now, I'm not saying you can't have fun, but at the end of the day, if you're making, say just $50,000 a year or something, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep, right? It's how much you put into income producing assets. So yes, initially you're not going to be able to put a down payment on a property, right? But there's properties out there that are only worth 100 grand. You get a 5% down payment for that. As long as you qualify for those types of loans, you can easily get into a property with 5 grand, right, in a different state. And even if you don't live there, you can rent it out, and now you have a property appreciating in your name just by putting down $5,000. Even if it takes you a year to save that, it's worth it. And long term, you'll thank me for even like telling you this, because an $100,000 property now, 10 years from now, is guaranteed to be worth at least 200, 300, $400,000.
Okay. Okay. Now, in our pre-interview, you mentioned your father's passing had a huge impact on how you view financial planning. How did that event change your approach to money management?
So I would say the biggest thing that changed my mindset in regards to financial planning would be where to put your assets before you pass away.
Mhm.
You can't leave it up to the judge. Um, you really, you're almost like you're gambling at that point, because yeah, the will might have some type of say in what happens, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be the judge's decision, right? A trust is the only thing that you can get that's gonna prevent probate. In other words, the judge from making a decision, and you actually can make that decision for yourself. Kind of piggybacking off what you said in terms of my father, when he passed away in 2020, there was a $700,000 property, in a nice area that he left behind, and you know, even though in the will there were specific instructions that he wanted his children to be able to own that property outright, his wife still got 50% of it,
Mhm.
um, and they were only married for about 3 months before he passed away. So basically, we lost 50% of the sale of that house due to a will being set up instead of a trust.
Yeah. Okay.
Another thing is the probate period is very, very, very long and strenuous. It took about 2.5 years just for us to even be able to say the house is in our name. And then during that time period, no one was making any mortgage payments. And, we had about $50,000 of debt that we had to pay off. All
Yeah.
of that could have been avoided with the proper estate plan. So definitely look into trusts to avoid having, estate planning issues whenever you pass away.
Okay. Now, when did you first realize that financial wellness is closely tied to our overall life satisfaction, such as reducing stress or increasing our happiness?
Um, I probably realized that when um I started doing a little bit better for myself, and also I've realized that when I was younger as well. Because going back to more information about me growing up in my childhood is, we grew up very financially well up until 2008, and that kind of changed everything. And I saw my parents go from a happy marriage to a distressed one, which eventually led to divorce after going through financial struggle. And a lot of the time, even between a man and a woman, or husband and wife, it can create a wedge because of just the financial strain that the family is under. And sometimes it's overlooked. People like to say, "Oh, it's not about the money. It's not about the money." But at the end of the day, the problems that you're arguing about could very well have been solved with an extra $100,000 in the bank. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
You said improving your financial wellness can be as simple as doing the opposite of people who aren't where you want to be. Can you give us some examples of common financial mistakes that people make?
Okay. So number one, I would say the most common mistake is keeping more than 6 months of expenses in a savings account.
Okay.
Even if it's high yield savings, right? You're not outpacing inflation by much. You're wasting time. Time is money, right? The government's printing almost $1 trillion every single month, right? They're printing billions and billions of dollars every day. So every day your money is losing value. Therefore, the longer you keep it in the bank, the more useless it becomes. Think about the bank account as a refrigerator that's off.
Hmm.
Everything in the fridge is just rotting, right? So the longer you leave it in there, you know, the more food you're losing, the more wealth you're losing.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what you like to think of it as. Think of it as a ticking time bomb, a refrigerator that's off. Whatever you can use to kind of establish the mindset that the bank account is not the safe haven. It's really the worst place that you can leave your money. So I would say that's probably the number one mistake. Number two is people thinking that a stock market investment is the only way to grow their wealth with a high yield of interest. Just because a lot of people don't know about other options, it doesn't mean it's the only way, right? There's cash value life insurance. There's even there's certain types of real estate funds that you can invest in through the market. They're called REITs. So a REIT, a real estate investment account, that's another one with way less volatility and just as much earning potential. So that's probably another huge mistake that I would say people make is just putting all of their money or too much money at risk in the stock market. Number three, this is going to be kind of almost talking in circles at this point with real estate. A lot of people have money to put into a property, but they choose to leave it in a bank account because they don't want to deal with the process of buying a house.
Okay.
And that is probably the worst thing you can do because now you're missing out on all the opportunity costs. Opportunity cost is essentially the expense you're paying for not making a move, right? Every day that you delay a decision is every day that you're losing potential growth, right? So that's probably the top three. Um, and I would say another financial mistake, probably my this is gonna piggyback off of the whole financial literacy I guess pandemic at this point is the fact that people choose not to do any outside research outside of their inner circle, right?
Uh,
If you really think about it, if you're growing up in a town where people don't have money, people are struggling to make ends meet, why in the world would you listen to what they tell you to do with your money, right? What you should be doing is, reading books about, people who have money and what they're doing with it, right? Read a book by a billionaire. Read a book by someone who's made millions. Read a book about a real estate investor, business owners, people who have made the right decisions with their finances. And once you understand how they think, you'll start thinking the exact same way. And then you might even be able to make an impact on your community by helping the way they think.
awesome. Now, let me ask you, for someone looking to start their financial wellness journey, what are the key areas they should focus on first? Saving, investing, or debt management?
First, definitely debt management because there's no interest, there's no account that's going to earn you 26% interest, right? And if you have credit card debt, that's how much you're paying. So first thing you want to do is get out of debt. And how you want to do that, a little bit of just um, I guess you could say a sneak peek on how you can get out of debt is by focusing on one debt account at a time. Do not, let's say you're in $10,000 of debt and you have an extra $100 a month to pay into that debt. You don't want to allocate that $100 amongst three different, creditors. You want to focus on just one, pay it all the way down, and then once that one is paid off, then move on to the next. That's, long term gonna save you a ton of time. So that's one. Of course, that's only credit card debt. If you're in good debt, like, you have a real estate account, or maybe if you have like a car note, that's okay. You don't need to pay that off before you start thinking about investing. But anything that's above, 15, 20% interest, you need to get that off your credit profile as soon as possible. Um, and that's number one. I would say the second thing to kind of, focus on would be trying to get into an income producing asset. Again, real estate, start a business, invest in cash value life insurance, get into a plan that's going to continue to earn you money, and stop looking at dormant cash, because that's really what it is. Dormant cash is not going to get you anywhere. Okay. Third, I would say one course of action that you can take immediately to start, your financial journey is, if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you really can't find a way to make extra income, um, start going online and looking at side hustles, right? What are you good at? Are you good at cooking, right? Start cooking for people. Sell meals on Facebook Marketplace. I've bought so many things from Facebook Marketplace, and I'm sure a lot of people have as well. Try to find a way to start making an extra 500 a month, and don't take that 500 a month and spend it. Put it into a plan. Put it into something that's going to help you retire. Put it into something that's going to help you buy a property. Focus solely on income producing assets. And when that savings account or that cash value life insurance policy reaches that amount where you can finally buy your first income producing asset, go for it right away. Don't hesitate. Right? Take the risk. We understand that it's risky, but at the end of the day, it's riskier to stay in the position you're in than it
Mm-hmm.
is to take the risk to get out of it. Right?
Okay.
Because if you stay in the position you're in, that's guaranteed that you're not gonna ever change. Versus trying to make the change, at least you got a good shot at getting out of the predicament, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say hone in on your skills, your monetizable skills. Let's say you're good at video editing, right? Contact some YouTubers, contact some people out there who need video editors. They will let you they will let you work for them part time. And a lot of those little side gigs, they pay a lot better than you might think, right? You put in an hour, 2 hours of work, you get paid 200, right? And realistically, I mean, I've seen it happen. And this can be used with anything. If you know how to knit, sell clothes, sell hoodies, sell jackets, or sell, anything. Realistically, people buy almost everything as long as it functions.
Yeah, they do. All
Yeah.
right. Now, what are some common myths you hear about building wealth, and how do you debunk them amongst while working with your clients?
The most common myth, I would have to say, that is financial advisors. Now, not all financial advisors are bad. That's not what I'm trying to say. But
I was trying to see where you were going with this.
not all financial advisors are bad, right?
Okay.
They can be helpful. They can definitely help you out a ton. But what people sometimes fail to understand about the financial advisement scene is that they have one job, and their job is to help you invest, right? Now, does that mean that they're going to, does that mean that every financial advisor is just going to ask you to put every single dime of your hardworking income with them? No, right? Of course, some of them are going to have, some of them are going to be a little bit more ethical than others, right? But at the end of the day, if the only way you get paid is by managing, an individual's money, of course you're going to be incentivized to have them manage as much of your money as possible. What they don't tell you is that the more money they're managing, the more fees they're charging, right? So if you have a financial advisor who you have managing about, $500,000, right? They're earning like 3% off of your portfolio every single year, whether you make money or lose money. And they don't really tell you these things, or they might tell you, but they might sound like, it's just protocol and things of that nature, which it is. But at the end of the day, it's much more beneficial for you to do a little bit of research on your own and find out where to store your money versus relying on a financial advisor. Because if your financial advisor is putting you in a plan that's earning you an average of say 7 to 8% interest every year, now if you deduct 3% off of that, I mean, where does that leave you? You know what I mean? You're barely outpacing inflation at that point. That's why most people, when they retire, they don't have the cash they need to be able to retire because their money is sitting in an account that is doing fairly well, but at the same time, it's volatile, right? You know, whenever the market drops 20%, they're still charging that 3% and selling some of your stock to profit off of so that they can, pay their bills. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but to for some people to think that all of their money has to sit with a financial advisor, I would say that's a really, really huge misconception because at the end of the day, you're paying for that service. And you want to be very careful as to where you're putting your money and who you're paying.
Okay. Now, one of my questions for you is how can individuals take better advantage of the tax code? And what's a common area where people are unknowingly being taken advantage of?
I would say number one is tax code 7702A. If you can take advantage of that, which most people can, that's huge, right? Because that tax code is basically letting everyone know that if you invest your money, not only in the stock market, but also in cash value life insurance, that you'll be able to grow your wealth completely tax free. So say you have half of your wealth in the retirement plan, like a 401k, and then the other half in cash value life insurance. The portion that's in cash value life insurance is going to grow for the rest of your life completely tax free, even when you start withdrawing from it. So withdrawing $100,000 from a 401k versus $100,000 from a Roth, or sorry, from a cash value life insurance, every single year, those are completely different numbers, right? Because one, you're getting taxed 20%, leaving you at 80K, and the other one, it's completely tax free, meaning you're earning an additional 20% on top of whatever you took out of the 401. So you want to be very careful about that. You want to make sure you're putting your money um, in the right places in terms of, you know, your tax liability. I would say number two is if you're a business owner, definitely hire a CPA, 150%. Because CPAs are going to be able to plug all of the holes in your boat and really prevent you from paying extra taxes that you don't need to. Um, Now, if you're a W-2 income earner with a job where you're working for a company, now that might be a little bit different because there's not really much you can do to lower your tax liability besides, again, real estate. Um, there's a basically if you do what's called a cost segregation study. Now you can write that down because that's probably my favorite tax code outside of 7702A. Basically, a cost segregation study will allow you to um, take all of the depreciation from your home for the next few years and accelerate that into 1 calendar year. So basically, let's say you buy a house, and over the next 20 years, you're gonna have to replace your roof, you're gonna have to replace your AC, you're gonna have to repaint the house. You're gonna have to make all of these updates and changes. You'll actually be able to deduct all of those expenses off of your taxable income for that year, even though it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Now, you stay motivated by the drive to teach financial literacy. How do you measure success in your mission to educate people about their financial health?
I say I probably measure success by how many people I can say I've helped. Um, I think that's probably the number one measure of my success because the larger my network gets and the larger amount of people I'm able to reach in one call or in one setting or in 1 week or in 1 month, that can kind of tell me like how much progress I've made. Right? When I first started doing this, I could barely reach a soul, right? There's not really much people I could talk to, and now here I am in front of however many people, kind of explaining how this financial literacy can change lives. So I think the larger platforms that I get on, the more people I'm able to speak to at once, the more clients that I'm jumping on meetings with on a day-to-day basis. That's probably my number one, measure of my success right now.
Okay. Now, how do you stay up to date with the latest financial strategies and resources to ensure your clients are receiving the most relevant information?
I would say definitely stay updated on YouTube. Go ahead and follow some of the best financial channels out there. I would recommend, Graham Stephan. He's a really really good one. He's not big on he's really really big on real estate. That's probably my favorite thing. Graham Stephan is huge. Another one I would say is Minority Mindset. He's really, really good as well. There's a bunch of other finance YouTubers that I like, but those are probably my favorite too. So yeah, I would say them, and then also just keeping updated on basic news, right? If you're a stock market investor, stay up to date with the stock market. Make sure that your capital is protected. If you're investing in cash value life insurance, I mean, there really isn't too much to stay updated on those because those typically stay the exact same. Cash value life insurance has been around since the early 1800s. Some have been around since the early 1900s. Abraham Lincoln used these plans, right? Creator of Disney, Walt Disney created used these plans as well. So did the creator of McDonald's.
I was just getting ready to say, I know you're about to mention McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah. You knew about them already, or is it because I
Yeah,
told you?
I knew about them already. I knew about all the ones you just mentioned, Walt Disney, McDonald's. I knew about that already. I think Starbucks actually follows that as well.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
you just taught me something. Yeah, I didn't even know Starbucks. So all of these major business owners, they're taking advantage of this, and it's been going on for years. So as far as
Yeah.
like staying up to date, I would say really just staying up to date with the new products in cash value life insurance. Whole life has been around for 200 years. IUL has been around for about 30 years now. It's making big changes. You're earning a lot more interest in those IUL products. So I would say I just like to keep an eye out. I'm in the industry, obviously. I'm a broker. I hear all of the news in regards to cash value life insurance, which products are brand new, which ones are, making groundbreaking changes. So just being in the industry is probably the easiest way to stay connected with that.
Okay. Now, earlier you recommended the book, The Laser Fund. What do you find most valuable about this book, and how has it helped shape your own financial philosophy?
So the laser fund completely changes, the trajectory of how you think. Most people have a linear growth strategy thought process,
Hmm.
right? And what that means is, you know, wherever I put my wealth, it's only going to be able to grow or sit there, right? And the laser fund completely changes your mindset because now it makes you understand that, just because your money is sitting in one asset, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to only grow there. For example, it opened my mind to cash value life insurance loans and HELOCs, right? A HELOC, you're basically taking a home equity line of credit and you're using that to go ahead and purchase another income producing asset. So now the money that you had sitting in that home is still increasing in value while also taking that money and going buying a different asset that's also going to increase in value and possibly even cash flow as well if you have some tenants in the property. Same
Okay.
exact thing with cash value life insurance. The money that's sitting in the cash value bucket is completely separate from the amount that's sitting in the loan amount that you can use to go and purchase other assets. So being able to leverage the same dollar twice and basically being able to double your wealth on a whim, I would say that's probably the biggest mindset shift that the laser fund gives you.
Okay. Now, in our pre interview, you also mentioned that everyone has the same opportunity when it comes to financial success. What advice would you give someone who feels like they're starting at a disadvantage?
Catch up. So basically how that works is, for example, if you're born in like an undesirable situation and you grew up just really hard times, you grew up in, you know, just a bad area, whatever the case may be, the best thing that you can do is, really take that step to leave, right? And I know sometimes it's not the easiest, right? Obviously, you kind of have to work your way out of it. But some people literally will stay where they are because they feel comfortable there, even though they know it's not the best place. And I would say, there's good areas in the United States that aren't expensive. You just have to be able to save up enough to be able to, move everything over there. And once you're there, you're there. So as far as like physical location goes, I would say that's probably number one. Just try to work your hardest at getting out of the situation. And then same goes for knowledge, right? Some people grow up in an area where there's not really much knowledge that they have that they can use to leverage their way out of poverty. And I would say the best way to kind of avoid that and get over that is by reading, right? Audible is cheap, the library is free. You can go and actually, study what some of these wealthier individuals have put on paper and start, basically applying that knowledge in your life.
Okay. Now, how do you personally manage stress or setbacks when it comes to your own financial goals or business challenges?
So me personally, I put everything on God. Huge believer in faith, I put everything in God's hands. I know that He has my back. And in terms of like how that's worked out for me, it's worked out pretty good. I've never felt stressed long term. Everything's temporary, everything always ends up working out. And what I've learned recently, and this can work for anybody, believer or not, is 97% of things that we worry about as human beings is never really ends up coming true.
That's
If
true.
you kind of look it up and really, look into the statistics of it, you can, worry about 100 things, and chances are only three of them really come into fruition. And that's just like a general rule of thumb. Of course, that varies, but like we just worry too much.
Hmm.
So when you realize that, and like me as a numbers guy, and anybody else who's good with numbers, it makes it a lot easier to digest any situation because chances are you're gonna be all right anyways. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
because you have a 3% chance of things blowing up in your face and a 97% chance of things working out.
Okay. Now, what's one habit or financial practice you've implemented in your own life that has made a significant impact on your financial health?
I would say the biggest habit that um, probably changed like the trajectory I was on was getting uncomfortable, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. Um, if you really think about it, you can't really expect to change as a person if everything around you is the same, right? So you want to put yourself out there, go to that networking event, go to that luncheon, right? Go to wherever you're invited to where that, it might better yourself.
Hmm.
Do it. Go to the gym, right? Talk to people. I was a very, very heavy introvert. I still am. I don't like talking to people, but I still force myself to do it. The reason being because I know that, your the net worth that you have is just a sum of the people that you hang around, you know? So you just have to get in front of people who you respect and get in front of people who you want to be like, right? Don't hang around people too much. Like, of course, you can have friends who, aren't in the best financial situation. I'm not saying to cut them off or anything like that, but, spend your time around people who you strive to be more like. If you can't see yourself, being like that person in 5 years, then try not to spend too much of your time around them.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So you're active on various social media platforms. How has using social media helped you connect with a broader audience and spread the message of financial literacy?
I would say that. utilizing social media is huge, right? If you have a word or if you have something that you're trying to spread, definitely get in front of, Instagram, get in front of Facebook, YouTube, any one of those platforms, and really just start, making content. You got to stay consistent. Um, I would say my biggest struggle that I've had with that is just consistency, but um, you know,
That's
long
a lot of
term,
hours.
yeah,
Because when you run a business, social media is a business within itself. So I get it. Yeah.
exactly. So it can get difficult to stay consistent, but it's best to continue to persevere and go through the motions, because at the end of the day, you know, there's no other way that you'll be able to get in front of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people from your house, right?
Yeah.
And leveraging social media is the only way that you'll be able to do that.
Okay. Now, what are some of the most rewarding aspects of helping others improve their financial literacy, and how does it fuel your passion for this work?
So I would say how financial literacy. So your question is, how does financial literacy
No,
fuel?
no. What I'm asking is, what are some of the most rewarding aspects of helping others improve their financial literacy? Like, what do you find rewarding about helping other people improve their financial understanding, their financial wellness, and how does that fuel your passion for this work?
Yeah. So I've had people flat out tell me that, on one of these calls, that it feels like they just went to church. You know those chills you get when you go to church?
Yeah.
It's like they've told me that, wow, like this knowledge that you just gave me, it literally just opened my eyes and made me feel like a whole gateway in my brain that I didn't know has just opened for me. And I think when I hear things like that, that's probably what, keeps me motivated and keeps me going to continue to spread the knowledge, because it's just so fulfilling to hear people say things like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
um, I'm changing lives by just telling one person, right? Because that one person can go and tell five, and that five can turn into 50, and now I'm just spreading the word, based on just telling one person this information. And I think that's probably the most fulfilling thing about it.
Okay. Now, this is my last question for you. And when you answer this question, also go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find you online, on social media or website and all of that. If you could leave our listeners with one key takeaway about financial wellness and building wealth, what would it be?
It would be.
You didn't lose me. I'm still here. I just like to give you the last. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I would say definitely read. Focus on reading, because there's not going to be any other way that you're going to be able to get accurate information outside of just a book, right? I know it sounds old school and it's probably kind of crazy hearing it from a young guy, but like I feel like most of the knowledge that I've gained is just from reading books from authors that are reputable, people who've done what they preach, and it's really just changed everything for me. Also, you can find me on, all the different social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. My name is Weylan Walker. I go by that on all of my social media platforms. The best way to definitely reach out to me is going to be by my website. That's weylandwalker.com.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Weylan. This has been a really engaging and educational episode. I think there's a lot that we can take away, and I'm going to have a lot of good clips as well. So I am prepared to share those for those of you who are out there listening. I will be posting some of these clips immediately. I wrote down the timestamp on some of them just so that I knew where to go back and clip them at, because some of this information is quite valuable for quite a few of us out here who are managing businesses, those of you out here who are also seeking financial freedom. So again, thank you so much for giving us your time today, Weylan. This was really good.
You're very welcome, Cami, and it was a pleasure having me. Honestly, like I can't thank you enough. It was really just, a pleasure being able to answer these questions and spread the financial knowledge to everybody on this platform.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, you guys, this wraps up another episode of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness podcast. Again, a big thank you to Weylan Walker for sharing his wisdom and passion for financial literacy. His belief is that anyone can achieve financial wellness with the right knowledge and approach, that is truly empowering. Don't forget, Weylan is one of the VIP coaches for our upcoming 10 Dimensions of Wellness virtual summit, where he will be sharing even more insights and strategies to help you take control of your financial future. Head over to our website, which is scrolling across the bottom of the screen, for all details and how you can join us. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found this episode to be helpful, be sure to share it with someone who could benefit from Weylan's advice. And also, don't forget to like, share, comment, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, remember, financial wellness is within your reach. Take control and make it happen. Take care and stay well, you guys.